Number 1.
Thank you. With permission, Mr Speaker, I will answer questions 1 and 16 together. Today, Mr Speaker, is the day those opposite always knew was coming. The legacy of the last government was a prison system on the brink of collapse, and they left us with no choice. So today, around 1,700 offenders have had to be released a few weeks or months early by changing the automatic release point for some offenders from 50% to 40% of their sentence. If we had not done this, we faced courts unable to hold trials, police unable to make arrests, and a total breakdown of law and order. This is not the long-term solution. There is more that we must do, but it was the necessary first step that we had to take following the disgraceful dereliction of duty by the previous government.
Dame Priti Patel.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. During the debate in July around early prisoner release, the impact assessment produced suggests that there'd be 5,500 less prison places than planned for, due to make the capital savings that were discussed at the time. When I raised this with the Secretary of State, she did say that this would be under review. Can she now confirm that it's the government's intention to cut back prison places by 5,500 over the medium and long term?
The Right Honourable Lady will know that I've committed to publishing a 10-year capacity strategy. There are also live discussions as part of the budget and spending review process. We have committed to delivering the shortfall of 14,000 places in our prison system that the previous government failed to deliver. That is a commitment we have given. Those conversations are live conversations. I will report to the House in due course, but we will be publishing a 10-year capacity strategy before the end of the year.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can the Secretary of State explain why, when there are some 10,000 foreign criminals blocking up space in our jails, why aren't they being removed and deported, simultaneously saving the British taxpayer billions of pounds every year and having the support of millions of British voters?
Yeah.
They are being deported. They will continue to be deported. Nothing will change as far as deportation of foreign national offenders is concerned, but the inheritance that we had from the previous government meant we had to take further additional measures. The answer won't come from deportation of foreign national offenders alone, but it is very much part of the picture.
We come to the Shadow Secretary, Adega.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Under the early release scheme that the Secretary of State designed the detail of, starting today, how many people will be eligible to be released at the 40% point who have been sentenced for offences, for example, under Section 20 GBH, Section 47 ABH of the Offence Against the Person Act 1861, both of which carry a maximum sentence of 5 years, but more often a sentence will be awarded that is less than 5 years?
Well, the Shadow Law Chancellor will know that we have made important exclusions to the design of this policy, and all those who have committed serious offences, who have been sentenced to 4 years or more, will be excluded from this policy. He will know that I will not be able to give details on the specific mix of offences per offender, but those offences that should be included that relate to serious violence or sexual offences have been excluded from this policy.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, I'm grateful to the Secretary of State, but I have the statutory instrument and the list of exclusions on the schedule here, and those offences are not specifically excluded in that list of exclusions. So what I fear will be deeply disappointing is that many domestic abusers will potentially actually be considered convicted for those offences, have received fewer than 5 years, and therefore potentially be eligible for early release. And her scheme, as I say, does not explicitly exclude those offences. Given that, the reality is that the government's claim domestic abusers won't be eligible to benefit from this scheme will ring very hollow to victims of domestic abuse and the wider public, won't it?
I say with respect to the Shadow Law Chancellor, what will ring hollow to members of the public is the Tory party's newfound commitment to exclusions for domestic abuse, the sheer hypocrisy of talking about exclusions to this policy, when he was himself a minister in the previous government who brought in the end of custody supervised licence scheme, which had no exclusions relating to domestic abuse whatsoever. And in fact, and he says he talks about the Governor Locke from his sedentary position. He knows full well that was an attempt to take the blame away from ministerial decision-making and place it with governors, something I'm not sure was much appreciated by those who are currently running our prisons. We have taken every step available to us and every mechanism available to us to exclude offences connected to domestic abuse and, crucially, something that the previous government never did, give the probation service time to prepare.